How's everyone going today? One of the questions I get asked the most is, how do I get into bluegrass? It's a question I get from both more advanced players who are kind of looking to dip their toes into a different style, as well as beginner players who are just getting into guitar and wanting to learn some things. And I thought, as I want to pivot this channel more towards some lesson-based content, this would be a really good place to start. It's the question I get asked the most, and I feel like getting into bluegrass is one of the best things I ever did, and hopefully I can help you get into it too. Just a really quick disclaimer before we get into the video, this isn't going to be like a super comprehensive deep dive into everything you should know. This is more like a general overview and just like a little something to get the ball rolling for you. With that out of the way, let's get into tip number 1. Learning tunes is going to be absolutely my number 1 tip for anybody wanting to start with bluegrass and just getting into this genre. For anyone who doesn't know, fiddle tunes is just kind of a catch-all term for bluegrass instrumentals. So the reason I rate tunes so highly is they're kind of this beautiful all-in-one package. It's like a right-hand exercise from the gods. You're going to learn phrasing, you're going to learn these melodies, different ideas about how people would play these melodies on guitar. You're going to learn chords, chord progressions, strumming, rhythm. All of these things are going to be all neatly packaged up in fiddle tunes, so they're great to learn. For you more experienced players out there, I recommend checking out the book Essential Fiddle Tunes by Lessons with Marcel. This is a great resource. There's a bunch of fiddle tunes in there, they're all kind of like these intermediate arrangements. It's going to give you a really great base about how these guys are thinking, phrases and positions and things like that. If you're just getting into it from a different genre, I do recommend learning a few of them off of transcriptions to figure out how things are played. Especially if you're coming from like rock and blues where it's very like closed positions. Bluegrass is going to use a lot more open string, open position, and it can be a bit of a weird transition. I know it was for me when I got into this stuff, so it might be for you as well. After you've gotten familiar with a few tunes though, I do really recommend trying to learn some by ear. Even if you make a bunch of mistakes and you don't quite transcribe it right, it's a really good exercise and a really good learning tool. Definitely try and do some ear training on that as well. So for the more beginner players out there, like you've picked up the guitar for the first time or you're like a few weeks, a few months into playing, I actually have a little book that I've been using with a lot of my other students that I call Intro to Fiddle Tunes. So this book is filled with 10 different skeleton arrangements, and a skeleton arrangement is just where we break the tune down into the kind of simplest form the melody can be. This is going to be a really nice way to kind of start getting familiar with what melodies sound like without having to sort of immediately blaze through these crazy alternate picking fast lines. You can kind of take it a bit slower and learn these melodies, learn some of the chord progressions and kind of build up through it. I don't have it publicly available at the moment, but if you are interested in that beginner book, let me know. I'll shoot you a link. If you want my kind of recommendation for 3 tunes to check out to get you going, try checking out Whiskey Before Breakfast, Gold Rush, and I reckon Cherokee Shuffle is a good shout too. These are 3 that have popped up a lot for me going out to jams, and whilst your mileage may vary, I still think they're good songs to get into and start getting the ball rolling. So alternate picking, what is it? In its simplest form, we're picking down towards the floor and then up towards the ceiling. And repeating that pattern. Now, there are some caveats to this. So it doesn't necessarily mean we're always going to do an up after a down. It's going to depend on where our downbeat in the song is. So let's have a look here. When I'm talking about downbeats, I'm meaning quarter notes. And if we look at this piece of music just down here, when I see a piece like this is going to be all down picks. These are our quarter notes, or our downbeats. So it would sound like this. If we then wanted to try doing more of an alternate picking thing, we'd switch this to eighth notes, which look like this. And then we'd be going down on the first one out of the pair, and up on the second one. So this would end up getting us down, up, down, up. So it's worth noting here as well, you might notice some extra symbols under this music. So that little like square looking bracket, that's going to signify our down picks, picking towards the floor. And the V is going to signify an up pick, so picking towards the ceiling. This notation does pop up on quite a few transcriptions, which can be really helpful. Sometimes it doesn't, so you're going to kind of have to figure your own way out through it, but these are really important symbols to know what they mean. So we've got our quarter notes, we've got our eighth notes. We can stitch these together to create some different rhythms. One of the common ones we would get is the one on the screen here, where we've got 2 eighth notes and then a quarter note. Sound like that. The next rhythm we've got is kind of just the flip of that. We could have a quarter note and then 2 eighth notes. So we'd get down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down. So we could also tie these quavers together. And this is a common rhythm you might get in like Big Mon or Salt Creek. It sounds a bit like this. So the picking for that as well is we're going to have down, up, down, up, down, up, down. we're getting this tie over, which means we're going to end up with 2 up picks. So these are some common rhythms you're going to come across. While you're picking through these rhythms as well and getting comfortable with this alternate picking idea, make sure you stay nice and relaxed. We don't want to be kind of like tensing up and really like making it hard for ourselves. We're going to try and stay nice and loose, nice and relaxed. We'll put on a metronome. Our quarter notes will be on the click. Our up picks are going to be between the clicks. And we're just going to take it nice and slow. Stay nice and relaxed. We want to build a nice foundation for our alternate picking, because the speed will come with time and practice. So we've got some tunes that we're going to start learning. We've got some alternate picking we're looking at. Let's get into tip number 3 here. So the last tip is learning the chords to these tunes. It's a trap I fell into really early on. I just didn't learn the chords. I learned all these melodies, but I couldn't play the chords. And the reality is that when we're getting into playing in jams, or even with bands, we're going to be spending most of our time playing chords. So it's really important we know what those chords are and that we can play a good rhythm behind it as well. So when it comes to rhythm, the most common one and our meat and potatoes rhythm that we're going to look at is our boom chuck. So boom chuck in its simple form, if we took just a basic G chord, we would be playing our low 6th string, that's our boom, and then looking to strum the top 3 strings. Doesn't matter if we hit some more, but we're just trying to hit the high strings, and that gets us our chuck. So we've got boom, chuck, boom, chuck, boom, chuck. For our chuck, we're sort of imagining flicking water off our wrist, keeping a nice loose wrist that whole time. And this is going to be the foundation for our entire rhythm. Whilst we can add in some extra bells and whistles, this is the meat and potatoes of what we want to play. So try practicing a good strong boom chuck rhythm, getting those chords down with the boom chuck, and getting comfortable playing rhythm guitar, because you're going to be doing it a lot. So that's about going to wrap it up for this sort of quick crash course in getting into bluegrass. My extra bonus tip to you is to go listen to as much of this stuff as possible. Check out a bunch of different bands, check out a bunch of different guitarists. Listen to how different guitarists play fiddle tunes, you know? Go listen to Clarence do Whiskey Before Breakfast and see what Tony's doing. See what Norman Blake plays on it. Go check out what these different guys are doing, how they're approaching these melodies. Listen into their rhythm playing. How do they play the chords? All of this stuff is just a really helpful tool, and it's going to give you a really strong foundation to get you going with it all. But with that, I'm going to bid thee farewell. If you enjoyed this video, let me know down in the comments. If you have any more questions, let me know as well. I'd be more than happy to answer some more questions. Or even if you've got an idea for a future video you'd like to see, just let me know. If you're interested in checking out some more stuff, you can check me out over on Instagram or Twitch, both mattburrows1356. I hope you have a wonderful day. Remember to not run from challenge, run towards it, and enjoy the journey. Hope you have a good day.